Of all the 7 wonders of the ancient world, only one has never been found. No ruins, no rubble, not a single confirmed stone. The Hanging Gardens of Babylon, described by ancient writers as a paradise rising hundreds of feet above the Mesopotamian desert, may never have existed at all. No Babylonian text, no confirmed location, no archaeological evidence, just descriptions, written by people who never saw them, passed from mouth to mouth, scroll to scroll, across centuries. So how did they end up on history's most famous list? And if they didn't exist, who invented them, and why? To understand the gardens, you need to understand the man who supposedly built them. Nebuchadnezzar II, king of the Neo-Babylonian Empire. He ruled from 605 to 562 BCE, over 4 decades of absolute power over the ancient Near East. Under his reign, Babylon became the largest city on earth. He rebuilt the Great Ziggurat, paved ceremonial processional ways, constructed the famous Ishtar Gate, its tiles a brilliant lapis lazuli blue. He waged war against Egypt, crushed Judah, destroyed the first temple of Solomon, and dragged entire populations to Babylon in what historians call the Babylonian captivity. This was a man of enormous ambition, a builder, a conqueror, a king who changed the ancient world forever. The most popular legend says Nebuchadnezzar built the gardens for his wife, Amytis, a Median princess from the Green Mountains of western Iran. She had grown up surrounded by cool forests and lush valleys. Then she came to Babylon, a flat, dust-choked desert plain, and grew sick with longing for home. The story says Nebuchadnezzar, unable to bear her sadness, commanded his engineers to recreate her homeland inside the city walls. Rising tiers of stone, filled with soil, planted with every tree and flower from her native mountains, a vertical paradise, built not for glory, but for love. It is, of course, a beautiful story, but there is no Babylonian record that Amytis ever existed. Ancient writers described the gardens in extraordinary detail. Diodorus Siculus wrote of a structure like a mountain, its terraces supported by massive stone vaults, rising 400 feet into the air. Strabo described elaborate irrigation systems, water being raised from the Euphrates by hidden mechanical screws, delivered to the highest terrace, cascading down through living plants. The engineering implied is extraordinary. Raising that volume of water against gravity in 600 BCE would have required technology we still don't fully understand. The closest surviving example, Archimedes' screw, wasn't invented for another 3 centuries. So either the engineers of Babylon possessed technology that left no other trace in human history, or these descriptions were invented. Here is what bothers historians most. Nebuchadnezzar II was obsessed with documenting his achievements. His inscriptions, thousands of them, fill the world's museums. He recorded every temple he built, every canal he dug, every military campaign he fought. He was not a modest king. And yet, not one inscription mentions a garden. Not one cuneiform tablet from Babylon describes anything resembling the Hanging Gardens. The Babylonian chronicles, meticulous records of royal achievements, are completely silent. For a structure supposedly visible for miles, supposedly the envy of the ancient world, there is not a single line of Babylonian text. The silence is deafening. Every description of the Hanging Gardens comes from Greek or Roman writers, none of whom were alive when Babylon was at its peak. Diodorus Siculus wrote about them around 50 BCE, 500 years after they supposedly stood. Strabo described them a generation later. Quintus Curtius Rufus, in the 1st century CE, 600 years after the fact. The most vivid description, by a writer called Berossus, claims to be from a Babylonian priest who lived through it, but his original text has been lost for 2,000 years, and we only know it through quotes in other books. The further from Babylon in time and geography a writer was, the more vividly he described the gardens. In 1992, a British scholar named Stephanie Dalley proposed something radical. What if the Hanging Gardens were real, but not in Babylon? What if they were built by the Assyrian king Sennacherib in his capital Nineveh, a city 300 miles north, near modern Mosul? Sennacherib's own inscriptions describe elaborate gardens on terraced stone platforms with mechanical water lifting systems planted with every tree and plant from across his empire. It matches the ancient descriptions almost perfectly. And critically, Nineveh was destroyed and depopulated in 612 BCE, before Babylon rose to fame. The memory of the gardens, displaced from one dead city, may have been absorbed into the myth of another. The name Babylon, by the time the Greeks wrote about it, may simply have meant Great City of the East. So did the Hanging Gardens of Babylon exist? After 2,000 years, we still don't know. The most likely answer, based on the evidence, is that they did exist, but not where we thought, and not built by who we thought. Sennacherib's Nineveh fits the engineering, the inscriptions, and the geography. But the romantic version, a king building paradise for a homesick queen above the flat desert of Babylon, is the one that captured the imagination of the ancient world. And it may have been capturing imagination ever since. Every myth survives because it contains a truth people need. Perhaps the truth in this one is simpler than the gardens themselves, that love, in every civilization, has always found its most extravagant expression. The gardens may be gone, but the idea of building paradise for someone you love, that has never disappeared.